Hydro Cannon takes care of Charizard and it is a Walrus in the back. Immediate swap into Granbull. Granbull is unshielded. It is made of paper. We are going to have to tank an Earthquake to the face. Earthquake is now more energy efficient than Icicle Sphere. The opponent attempts to make a catch, but the only thing they catch is a close combat to the face. And that is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. So, welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. Today we have a very different video from the sort of stuff I usually feature. I haven't uploaded any of my own battles recently as I have been struggling. I still am not legend. However, two of my good friends, Jeff and Karim, have both shown me you can still reach legend only using Shadow Pokemon, as both of these trainers have submitted two sets where they're using, unfortunately, double Charm. You hate to see it. Charm has been nerfed. However, both of these players managed to stay above 3000 ELO using this strategy. Charm has been nerfed, however, Shadow Pokemon really don't care. So without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, Jeff, aka the Doc, picks up a neutral lead. Against Obstagoon, he tanks the Night Slash, pivots out into Granbull, and Granbull is immediately met with the buff Charizard. So Charm has been nerfed and Charizard has been buffed. However, look at these Charm ripping apart the Charizard. Jeff correctly shields up the Blast Burn, returns fire with the Crunch. The opponent already down one shield, lets the Crunch go. Granbull is a Charizard counter, confirmed, and it is Swampert in the back. Hydro Cannon will be taking care of Granbull. Jeff, a very high IQ player. He's also a fellow admin on Fight Club. If you're on Facebook, go check out Fight Club. He's often on the leaderboards. He actually used this team twice to reach legend, and once again showing its power here. We tank the charge move on the Gator, and we are going to save our final shield for the newly released Shadow Ninetales. Obstagoon is going to have a pretty rough time. They can fire neutral cross chops, but Ninetales far too thick. We are going to commit to the Charm Down, Farm Down. Swampert now desperately needs to make two moves. Jeff, being very smart, knows he's just going to go for the fast move, beat down the opponent, doesn't make it, and we're off to a 1-0 start. Moving on to the next battle, we see the Gator into Swampert, pretty neutral. These waterfalls are going to chunk due to Swampert's ground water typing. They do take neutral from water. Jeff goes straight for the Hydro Cannon. The opponent puts up a shield to the double Charm backline, has immediately got shield advantage. The opponent is going to have to fire an Earthquake to do any meaningful damage, and Jeff's huge cojones call the bait. Swampert is going to fire off another charge move. Jeff shields up the Hydro Cannon. He is going to return fire with his own Hydro Cannon. Swampert, already down one shield, chooses to let it go, and the opponent comes in to a Lapras. Feraligatr, due to our water typing, is resisting the Ice Shard, so Jeff is going to stay in, put on some damage on the Lapras. We go for the Crunch, and Lapras is already down below half health. We get the defense drop. Lapras is going to fire off a charge move, and immediately no shield from Jeff Surf, even resisted, does take us out. However, we've got a second Pokemon that does resist Ice. However, worst case scenario, Charizard in the back. We've only got Charmers remaining. Jeff goes straight for the Weatherball. Weatherball does draw the final shield. We now switch out into Granbull. Are we going to use it as a third shield? Last second shield. Jeff correctly shields up the Blast Burn. However, this super spammy Charizard is probably about to sweep our backline. Granbull isn't going to tank this Blast Burn whatsoever. We get one shot. We now need to charm it down before the next one. However, Charizard on minimal HP makes another Blast Burn, and unfortunately we lose that game. Moving on to the next one. We see Feraligatr into Aurorus, an absolutely beautiful lead. The opponent throws two Powder Stones, switch out into Pelipper. We are going to stay in, chip and dip, I imagine. With a Crunch, is the opponent going to give us early shield advantage? No, they're not. Crunch lands for massive damage. Jeff now comes in to his Ninetales. Even if they go for a Hurricane, Ninetales pretty thick. The opponent just fires off a Weatherball. This is again going to be a Weatherball. Ninetales will be able to tank it, commit to the Charm Down, Farm Down. The opponent brings back out Aurorus. They fire off the Weatherball immediately. I imagine this will probably take us out. Even resisted, Ninetales actually hangs on with 1 HP and a Dream, and we are going to get some chip damage with the resisted Weatherball. The opponent now brings in their final Pokemon, which is a Machamp. We show the Granbull. The opponent says, fuck that, and concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see the Gator into Swampert. We saw this in a previous battle. Pretty good for the Gator as long as we don't get hit with an Earthquake. This opponent is actually running a purified Swampert. The disrespect is unbelievable. I hope Jeff absolutely destroys you for disrespectfully purifying the goat. We get shield advantage with the Hydro Cannon, and the opponent this time is not baiting. They full send the Earthquake. Near one shot. Our very angry looking Alligator we now pivot out into Granbull, and the opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon. Jeff gives up a shield and they now come in to the Walrus. The Walrus builds up to what could be an Earthquake. However, they lose charge move priority to the Granbull Crunch. Draws the final shield. Tough decision to make. Jeff calls the bait and it is just an Icicle Sphere. The opponent looking for the Powder Snow farm down. They do make it on minimal HP. Jeff sends back out the Gator. Great awareness from there. Calling that the opponent is going to be spamming out a charge move. Icicle Sphere takes care of the Gator. He can now safely no shield this up, as this is also just an Icicle Sphere. Ninetales still has a shield remaining, and that final Pokemon is Machamp, and it's going to be Hi Machamp, Bye Machamp. We can safely shield up. Whatever they throw, they go for the cross chop. The opponent now pivots back out into their Swampert. Weatherball is going to be taken care of Swampert. Back out comes the Machamp, and 2 charms enough to take that game. And I'm very happy that Jeff slaps up a purified Swampert. Moving on to the next battle. We see Feraligatr into Surfetched. Leaf Blade would be one-shotting us. We've already seen that Gator isn't the bulkiest, but holy crap, Waterfall ripping them apart. The opponent fires off the Leaf Blade. We respect it with a shield, and now return fire with the Hydro Cannon. We get our shield back. Pivot out into Granbull. 1 charm does massive damage to the Surfetched, and the opponent now pivots out into Charizard. Blast Burn will be taking care of the Granbull. Granbull was straight in and straight out. However, Jeff, learning from a previous battle, knowing that he needs to pivot out to draw out any Charizard that might be lurking in the back. The Waterfalls get this thing deep into the red. Ninetales comes in for the Charm Down, Farm Down, and the opponent concedes the match. So if you are going to run this team, it's super important that you are pivoting out into one of your Charmers to draw out any Charizard. Then you can come back in with the Gator, take it out, and then Charm Down, Farm Down, everything else. Moving on to the next one. We see a Walrus in the lead. Walrein is often paired up with Charizard, so Jeff immediately pivots out into Granbull. The opponent goes for a chip and dip, and just like that, we draw out the Zard. Granbull makes the crunch. Crunch goes unshielded, does massive damage, and we get the defense drop. This now forces Charizard to dump energy. Dragon Claw, even resisted, takes care of our Granbull. Jeff can now safely bring back out the Gator. 2 Waterfalls is going to be all that Charizard survives. This is just a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw takes us out, and it is a Trevenant in the back. This is going to be somewhat tricky. However, we make the crunch. Does the opponent respect our Dark type coverage with a shield? Yes, they do. An immediate pivot out now into Ninetales. Did we catch the Seed Bomb? Jeff still has 2 shields remaining, so we may as well start using them. We both still have 1 shield remaining. Jeff choosing to double shield his Ninetales to keep it healthy. The opponent full sends the Shadow Ball and then send back out the Walrus. We are just going to go straight for the Weather Ball. The opponent is going to get Charm Down, Farm Down. If they don't respect it, the opponent does commit a shield. The opponent is going to make an Earthquake. Can Ninetales, even in its Shadow form, survive the Earthquake? Yes, we can. On minimal HP, we Charm Down, we leave with the Weather Ball, and the opponent says, I'm just going to quit. You can have that one. Very well played. Moving on to the next one. We see the battle of the Shadow Water types. It's Shadow Gator into Shadow Swampert. Waterfall ripping apart the opponent. Gator goes straight for the Hydro Cannon. Swampert respects it with a shield. We now pivot out into Granbull. If we've caught an Earthquake, this is going to be night-night. Sleep tight Granbull. We do catch the Earthquake. Granbull straight in and straight out. The best third shield you're ever going to see. We can now come in to our second Charmer, and now the opponent brings out a Walrus. The fact the opponent has pivoted out into Walrein probably suggests that there is no Charizard in the back. We get baited with the Icicle Sphere. You hate to see it. We are going to return fire with the Psyshock. The opponent lets it go. Psyshock doesn't knock out. We do get the Charm Down, Farm Down. The opponent now brings back out Swampert. I'm going to say they're weak to charm in the back. Jeff also agrees we commit a shield on the Hydro Cannon, and that final Pokemon is a Dragon Breath Gary, and this game should be over. Jeff fires off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the final shield from the Gary. The opponent still farming up. We make the second Weather Ball. Weather Ball is neutral due to Gary's water ice typing, and just like that we snipe with a waterfall and take that game. Moving on to the next one. We see Feraligatr into Steelix. Beautiful lead. This is exactly where you want to catch the Steel type in the lead, as our back two Pokemon don't really want to see it. However, Dragon Tail would be resisted by both Charmers. However, their Steel typing would resist our Charm as well. Jeff fires off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon was actually caught on a Pidgeot. However, the Pidgeot chose to shield it up anyway. So Jeff, not really complaining. The opponent fires off the Feather Dance, and Jeff knows that Pidgeot users are all master baiters. He shows no respect. Returns fire with a Weather Ball, and Pidgeot is actually now all shields down. The opponent still needs the Brave Bird to take us out. Jeff's huge Gahona's call. Yet another Feather Dance. Mr. Opponent, you really need to quit your habit of master baiting, as we still make a Weather Ball. This is maximum debuffed, but Shadow Pokemon don't care. So the opponent committed 2 shields and still lost swap. Jeff now comfortably sitting in the driver's seat. We can send back out the Feraligatr. We get denied. Hashtag 9tick, fix your game. That isn't how the game is intended to work. The opponent has Politoed in the back. We can send out Granbull to get off as much charm damage as possible. You just need to save your shield for the Gator. The opponent full sends the Earthquake. However, non-Shadow Politoed really is a poor man's Swampert. Granbull easily survives that, gets off the Crunch. Crunch takes care of Politoed. Steelix is going to come in, commit to the resisted Dragon Tail farm down. We still have 1 shield remaining. However, I believe the play is to call the Psychic Fangs, and that's exactly what Jeff does. The opponent again sends a Psychic Fangs. They've thrown about 612 baits in this battle, and that is going to be their downfall. Jeff shields up the next Psychic Fangs, has the Hydro Cannon locked and loaded, and we take a very nice dub. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we see Feraligatr into Charizard, the absolute dream. The opponent pivots out into a Kingdra, and hi Kingdra, we've got 2 fantastic responses in the back. We can easily go for the Charm Down, Farm Down. The opponent fires off the Octazooka. Octazooka doesn't do a lot, and we even don't get debuffed, so we're sitting in a fantastic spot. When Charizard does return, we can start spamming out. Well, I say spamming out, we can start throwing Weather Balls. I don't think any Charmer particularly spams out charge moves. However, Ninetales is the spammiest, as Weather Ball only costs 35 energy. The opponent lets the first one go. The opponent is going to have to Blast Burn to take us out. If they go for a stupid Dragon Claw here, Ninetales will survive. The opponent goes for the correct play and full send the Blast Burn. Jeff can now send back out his Gator. The opponent pivots out into Galarian Weeds, and there's still 2 shields remaining. So Jeff looking to get a shield with the Hydro Cannon. The opponent does respect it with a shield. We now pivot out into Granbull. Granbull does have to be mindful of a Play Rough or a Overheat. The opponent farms up 299 energy. We correctly shield up the Play Rough. The opponent then fires off 1 Fairy Wind and another charge move. Trainer. 99 minus 60 is 39. Fairy Wind only gives you 9 energy. You've only got 48. That can only be a brutal swing. Jeff agrees, and the opponent quickly concedes, realizing they made a terrible play. Moving on to the next one. We see a huge core breaker for the team. I think Ferrothorn probably beats the whole of our team by itself. Let's see if Jeff can pull off a miracle victory. We draw a shield with the Hydro Cannon. Jeff is going to respect the Power Whip. The unfortunate thing here is we are going to get outpaced. The opponent does fire off 1 more Power Whip, and Jeff is choosing to double shield his Gator. Power Whip does draw a shield. The opponent now makes a savage catch, catching the Hydro Cannon on Gyarados. However, this does now give us an opportunity to come in with Ninetales and get some energy together. We are resisting Dragon Breath. Aqua Tail won't do too much. Jeff is going to commit to the Charm Down, Farm Down, and when Ferrothorn does return, we've got the Weather Ball locked and loaded. Weather Ball does hit for neutral due to the Steel Grass type, and the opponent shields it up, and I think we're still in absolute shambles. How are we going to get rid of this Ferrothorn? Mirror Shot will be taking us out if they are running Mirror Shot and the opponent is on Mirror Shot. That is absolutely brutal. That was double super effective. To our Ninetales, we now bring in the Granbull. Mirror shot does a lot of damage. Jeff now pivots out, looking to catch a resisted mirror shot on our Gator. The opponent actually throws the power whip. Holy crap. And that final Pokemon is Swampert. Jeff goes straight for the crunch. Crunch is going to do big damage. Can we charm down before a charge move? We cannot. And unfortunately, we lose. A heartbreaking game, but holy crap, Jeff was pulling off all the plays to try and make it close. So you can see a very impressive 8-2 run from Jeff. And now we've got 2 more sets from Kareem, who also used this team to great success. So without any further ado, let's jump into the battles. We see Shadow Gator into Swampert. We do have to be mindful of the Earthquake. We know Swampert users love to bait. Kareem calling that they are going to full send the Earthquake, and the opponent thinks they're funny, going for a little master baiting session. We shield up the Hydro Cannon, return fire with our own Hydro Cannon. We do draw a shield from the opponent. This could also be an Earthquake. Kareem commits a shield. The opponent this time full sends the Earthquake, so this gives us the opportunity to waterfall farm them all the way down. However, Kareem, knowing that he's running an ABB team, shows huge awareness, pivoting out into Ninetales to try and draw out the Charizard. And just like that, we draw the Charizard onto the battlefield. Really smart play there. Charizard commits a shield on the Weather Ball. Can they wing attack farm us all the way down? Yes, they can, but the Charmer's got them super low. We do fire off the Hydro Cannon. The opponent is going to send off the Blast Burn. Feraligatr does survive and returns fire with its own charge, but this is definitely going to be taking care of the Charizard. And it's Wall Rain in the back. Immediate pivot out into Granbull. This is going to be scary. Can we survive an Earthquake? Earthquake is more energy efficient than Icicle Sphere. Earthquake lands for massive damage. The opponent pivots out, trying to catch, but all they catch is the smoke from Granbull as they mistimed it. Close combat, locked and loaded, and Kareem says GG's and thanks for playing. Very impressive gameplay there from Kareem. You can see why he's often on the leaderboards. Moving on into the next battle, we see Gator into Ninetales. The opponent pivots out into Obstagoon. They fire off far too early for a Hyper Beam or a Gunk Shot. They fire off the Obstruct. Granbull absolutely laughing at this Obstagoon. The opponent fires off one more charge move. They do go for the Night Slash. Even with our lower defense, Granbull shrugs it off. No problem whatsoever, and the opponent brings back out the Powder Snow Ninetales. Kareem goes straight for the close combat. The opponent does commit a shield. They do Powder Snow farm us all the way down. However, Gator in a pretty good spot. We do just have to be mindful of the Dazzling Gleam. Kareem does respect it, and the opponent full sends the Dazzling Gleam. He can now over farm comfortably. Fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will be knocking out Ninetales unless they commit a shield. The opponent lets it go, and that final Pokemon is their own Shadow Granbull. And Ninetales is more than comfortable in this matchup, and the opponent concedes. Moving on to the next one. We see Gator into Dragonite. Dreadful, however, 2 better responses. In the back, we pivot out into Ninetales, and so far it looks like we are getting pretty hard counters. The opponent answers with a Drapion. Drapion pretty good against Charmers. The opponent shields up the Weather Ball. The neutral Charms are ripping apart the opponent. We do shield up the Crunch Bait. However, it looks like we can 2-shield through this matchup, and that's exactly what Kareem is choosing to do. The opponent does fire off the Sludge Bomb the second time. However, Ninetales charms it all the way down. Alignment proves to be absolutely everything in this battle, as it is a Walrus in the back. Kareem sends the Psy Shot, which draws the final shield from the opponent. The Walrus is going to need to Earthquake to take us out, as Icicle Sphere would be resisted due to our Ice type, and the opponent full sends the Earthquake. And at this stage now, the win con for the opponent would be to make a catch. They attempt the catch, but Kareem again far too smart for the opponent. He banks the Crunch, sends out the Granbull. Granbull can soak all of this energy superpower. Doesn't do a lot. Granbull commits to the Charm Down, Farm Down. Walrus does return. We are going to win charge move priority. Icicle Sphere doesn't quite take us out. We've got the Crunch locked and loaded, and that is going to be all she wrote. A very impressive dub once again. So you can see that Kareem is 4-0 in the set, putting on a clinic in this double charm strategy. Moving on to the next one. We see Gator into Walrein, the opponent pivots out into Surfetched, and we have the perfect response in our Ninetales. Surfetched farms up to what could be a Brave Bird, and Kareem does respect it, and the opponent does full send the Brave Bird. Surfetched showing why it's a great safe switch, able to force shields. The opponent sends back out the Walrein, and this Walrein is going to take a lot of damage. We do resist the Powder Snows, and they do need to Earthquake to take us out. They no-shield the Psyshock Walrein, already down to around 25% HP. Kareem is going to allow Ninetales to go down. They do send the Earthquake back out. Comes Feraligatr, Waterfall is resisted, and this is a double fighter team. Hello Machamp, meet Granbull. The opponent has enough for the Rock Slide. We do shield up. The opponent does send the Rock Slide. We can now charm them all the way down, and the opponent concedes the match. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next one. We see Shadow Feraligatr into the Bear Trap, Galarian Stunfisk. You absolutely love to see it. The opponent pivots out again into a fighter, and holy smoke, Shadow Machamp getting eaten alive. We can shield up whatever they throw. Cross Chop is neutral. Rock Slide is super effective. We correctly shield up the Rock Slide and back out. Comes the Bear Trap. Bear Trap is going to take neutral from Ice. Weatherball does some decent chip damage to the Bear Trap. The opponent farms up to maximum energy. Rock Slide is going to take care of Ninetales. We send back out the Gator. We do have to be mindful of an Earthquake. Kareem commits a last second shield, and the opponent does send the Earthquake. The opponent now sends out their final Pokemon, which is Dragonite. And at this stage, it looks like the opponent can save them shields for season 14, 15, or whatever they like, as they're not going to have a chance to use them. They send the Superpower. Granbull shrugs it off. Back out comes the Bear Trap, and Granbull very oppressively manages to charm that down as well. GG's, and thanks for playing. You can see a very impressive 5-0 in the first set. Heading into the last set of the video, we lead Shadow Feraligatr into Shadow Swampert. This is always a very bait dependent matchup. It looks like Kareem this time choosing to go for the crunch, as all Swamperts do shield. We get baited with a Hydro Cannon. You hate to see it. However, we are returning fire with the crunch, and we do get the defense drop. Kareem looking to pivot. Let's see if the opponent is going to full send the Earthquake this time. Kareem, again, great recognition, knowing he does need to try and draw out any fire type, and the opponent does have the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Bird of Death lurking in the back. The opponent has enough for a Brave Bird, and they do full send the Brave Bird. This should mean we can manage to Waterfall farm them all the way down. Holy smokes, it only took 3 Waterfalls to delete that bird. They send back out the Swampert. Kareem recognising he can farm it down, and the opponent's running double fire. It's Charizard in the back. Charizard commits a shield on the first Hydro Cannon, but guess what, buddy? There's plenty more of where that come from, and the second Hydro Cannon KOs. So double fairy beats double fire. You heard it here first. Moving on to the next one. We see Gator into Scrafty, immediate pivot into Ninetales, and it looks like we are actually running Powder Snow for the second set, so just ignore the graphic on the left. Weatherball draws a shield from the opponent. You can see this time Ninetales generating energy a lot quicker than it was before. Kareem calls the lunge bait, and the opponent is no master baiter, as Kareem read them like an absolute book. We can now safely shield up even a lunge bait, as at this stage now switch advantage should be obtainable. You throw one Powder Snow and the Weatherball. The opponent lets it go. Kareem fires off one more Powder Snow and the next Weatherball. Is the opponent trying to fight for switch? They are not, and just like that, Scrafty is going to be aligned with our Granbull. They look to counter farm us all the way down. We aren't going to make the Dazzling Gleam, so Kareem does fire off the Weatherball. Weatherball does some decent chip damage, and hi Scrafty, meet Granbull. The opponent has Ampharos in the back. It looks like Kareem choosing to sack his Ampharos. The opponent farms up to what could be a Focus Blast, and Kareem is going to respect it. The opponent full sends the Focus Blast. We Waterfall farm them all the way down, and the opponent, after throwing the Hail Mary, concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see Gator into Ninetales. Pretty good if they're on Powder Snow. Pretty neutral if they're on Charm. The opponent is on Powder Snow, so it is a good matchup for us. We are going to strike first with a Hydro Cannon. Gator hits like a truck. Ninetales does respect it with a shield. The opponent has enough for a Dazzling Gleam, and Kareem does respect it, and the opponent is not baiting. We know Kareem loves to pivot to try and draw out any fire type, so I imagine we're going to fire off this next Hydro Cannon and look to pivot. Hydro Cannon does draw the final shield, and now we switch out into Ninetales. It looks like we're actually back on Charm, so perhaps the graphic on the left is correct. Maybe we only use Powder Snow for 2 battles. I think the previous battle where Talonflame deleted us, we was on Powder Snow as well, but either way, we are back on Charm. We tank the Shadow Ball, return fire with the Psyshock. Psyshock does massive damage to Jellicent. Jellicent isn't going to be able to bubble farm us all the way down. The opponent recognizing that fires off another Shadow Ball, which does take us out. Jellicent is pretty low, so it's a good opportunity to come in and resisted Waterfall, farm them down, which we get. The opponent sends back out the Ninetales. They did bank enough for a Gleam. Kareem correctly shields up the second Gleam of the video, and it is Scrafty in the back, and hi Scrafty, meet Granbull. The opponent quickly concedes, and that is another impressive dub. So as always, you can see my editing skills are pretty substandard. I did download 2 of Kareem's battles twice, so I think we only actually had 8 battles from Kareem. I've had to edit out the last 2 as they are battles we've already previously showcased, but you can see he's super skilled, super high IQ. So huge shout out to both Kareem and Dr. Love, aka Jeff. You can tell by their gameplay, they're both very talented. They're both often on the leaderboards, and they've showcased again that you can use triple shadows and obtain elo of above 3,000. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on the channel, a link to my battle submission form is down below. I'd just like to say thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.